This is my Topo Toppers Mesa camper. I've been camping in this for about a year and a half. I absolutely love it. It's by far the best way I've ever camped. But there's one little detail about the design of this camper that is problematic sometimes. And today I'm going to try and fix it. Now, I don't know how well you can see this, but as you can see, here's the back of the truck, and the camper sort of tapers up and away from the tailgate here, so it's got sort of a forward-leaning angle. And I imagine that there's probably a reason for that, but here's the problem that it causes. When this hatch is open, this opening right here, because of that tilt of the angle, this opening is actually above the inside of the truck bed, so inside of my camper. It's a total non-issue a lot of the time. But when it rains, that means any water drips down and falls into the inside of my camper. And over here, it actually falls onto the cushion on my little couch here. It was supposed to be raining today, and so I would have had the opportunity to actually demonstrate what it does, but the weather is not cooperating, although I'm not complaining. Oh look, it started to rain. I definitely didn't put a sprinkler on there. Okay, that was kind of an extreme example. It doesn't actually come down that bad when it's raining. That was more water than you would normally have coming from rain. But you see the problem. And even when I have my 270-degree awning deployed, I still get a little bit of water that runs down the sort of the back side of the awning and does manage to come down, and I will get some drips in here. The other thing that happens even when it's not raining, if it has been raining and I simply open the hatch, any water that's on the hatch runs down and then also drips into this opening, bringing water into the inside of the truck. And normally it's not a huge amount of water. I usually get, sort of a little puddle right here, and this gets damp up here. And yeah, that got wet right there. But when you're camping in winter in Western Oregon, and the air is wet, everything is wet, you're coming in wet, water on your feet, or possibly snow on your boots, there's already a lot of humidity to deal with. So any extra water coming into the camper is just that much more humidity inside, so ultimately create condensation when it gets warm in here and cold out there. So I'd like to eliminate or at least reduce how much water manages to get inside through this gap right here. Now, one thing I need to emphasize here is that my camper was built 2 years ago. It's the original design of Topo Toppers Mesa camper, and my specific camper is the prototype for the Frontier. So it was the first ever camper they built to fit onto a Frontier. Over the past couple of years, Topo Toppers has continued to evolve and refine the design of their camper, and one of the things that they have changed is the way this door works. So if you buy a Topo Toppers camper now, you don't get this style of door. It's a different, sort of engineered differently, and there's sort of a rim and it folds down over the top of it rather than being this piece that kind of fits into this framework. It looks like a design that should help shed rain that might be coming down and help prevent it from falling into that space. Now, I don't have experience with their new door design, but I noticed it on the new campers when I would see them at the expos. So what I'm dealing with here is really a me problem. It has to do with my specific camper and may not really apply to you or something you may be looking to buy. And one idea was to basically just bridge this gap with a rubber seal like I have on the tailgate down here. But the problem is that at the end of it here, this where, this thing would essentially form a gutter, and whatever water was up there would come out right at this point. It still would be dripping down right inside the camper right here. So my idea here, and I don't know if this is going to work or not, but I want to make a gutter basically that runs across the back of the camper like that. A little bit of a slope to run the water off that end where I don't do anything over there. And additionally, something to catch water running off of the hatch and also push it off in that direction. Now this is some material that is used by drywallers, I guess. I found it in the drywall area of my home improvement store. It's very thin galvanized steel, very, very lightweight. And it's like a little 1/2-inch channel there. So I'm gonna cut this to length, paint it black, and I'm gonna use outdoor rated double-sided adhesive tape to mount it onto the camper. We'll see how that goes. An 8-foot piece of this material was under $7. On the hatch, I'm using this 1/2-inch aluminum angle that I have. I have a bunch of this. I've had it for a couple of years. I've been using it for a number of uses in the truck and even around the house. This is also not terribly expensive, but I'm using this because it's what I have as opposed to buying something else. So ideally, it's usually best to probably use some kind of primer on bare metal. I didn't want to buy an $8 can of primer just for this little project. It was going to double the cost of this project. I've got this flat black paint plus primer I'm going to use initially. Then I will finish it with this satin black, which should be closer to the powder coat finish on the camper. Ultimately, it's going to get dirty. I think it'll all blend in. It'll be fine. All right, so there's the painted quote-unquote gutter material. And so that's painted everywhere except for on the back here where I'll apply the tape. Here is the angle aluminum that I'm going to put on the hatch just to sort of divert the water when the hatch gets opened. So there again, it's painted everywhere except for where I will apply the tape. I was originally thinking to use the 3M VHB tape, but they don't carry it at my home improvement store. So I've got this instead. This is a 2-sided tape that you apply to the thing, and then it's got another layer that you peel and stick. I've used this before, and I don't remember what I used it on, but whatever it was, it's still holding, it hasn't fallen off. It does say that it's indoor, outdoor, all weather. I've also used the Gorilla Tape in the past, and I've had good luck with that also. The instructions for the tape suggest cleaning the surface first with rubbing alcohol. One thing I do like about this tape is that it is thinner than the Gorilla Tape. Now, I've never used the 3M tape, so I don't know how thick it is. The Gorilla Tape is at least twice as thick as this, at least. And, you know, I don't know if that makes much of a difference, but I like that this isn't going to, like, push that material out even further away from the body of the camper. Oh boy, this stuff does not like to cut, I will say that. That is not going to work with the scissors. I doubt I can do that with the knife. Oh, actually that works pretty well. That works quite well. Okay, I think I'll have to do this in a series of small pieces. Okay, so that's there. All right, moment of truth here. I think I got one shot to get this right, so. I didn't get it quite right, but it should be okay. So it is literally the last minute before the rains come. It's supposed to start raining today, and then it's supposed to rain all week long. This is my last chance to get this on here. I'm hoping to get up and camp this week. I expect it will be in the rain, so we'll see how this works out. Okay, so I know that looks a little funny because that one kind of goes at a diagonal down that way, but I just wanted to make sure that I had flow coming in that direction. And then the piece on the hatch goes at a slight diagonal. It's uphill there, but when that's open, that means it'll be downhill also in that direction. And I actually made this just slightly longer, so you can see it sort of sticks out, so that any water running down and hitting this gets pushed a little further outboard and hopefully not down into the camper. So there you can kind of see that little lip right there. I don't know if it's going to work or not, but we'll see. It might not do all of the rain that comes down, but if it knocks out 80% of it, that would be a win. I've cut one more piece of this aluminum angle, and that's just going to ride right there. But when it's raining, I'm just going to take that and stick it in there so it sort of sticks out, because this point of the gutter comes down and I think it falls maybe right about there. If I can just get that to carry some of the water a little further outboard, I don't know if that's going to work or not, but I've got a ton of this aluminum angle, so that's worth a try. And that black satin finish spray paint is just a perfect match to the black of the camper. So hopefully it kind of disappears into the back there. And maybe that looks a little odd, but you know, I'm always function over form. So if it works, I don't care what it looks like. Okay, clouds, bring it on. Okay, so I am out camping now. It is starting to rain a little bit. With the awning deployed, you can see how I do have this tiny little gap here. It's not much, and the area where I would be and I would work, you know, I've got plenty of shelter. I do get a little water that dribbles down here. So there is the gutter, and we get a little more rain going here. We'll see how that does. I didn't really get much rain until after dark, so it's really hard to tell exactly what's going on. I am getting some drips coming down between the hatch and the camper. There you can see that's a pretty good drip coming down there. I do think it's less, and I feel like that is like not wet at all. Getting a little bit of drip coming right there somehow. And there you can see some water has managed to ooze in. I think it's better than what it would have been, but it hasn't been raining very hard either. It's just been a light drizzle, so we're gonna have to see again when it's more rain and when it's daytime, when I can see what's happening. Okay, in the daylight here, I can see a little better what's happening now. Is the back flap of the awning here, it's actually hanging just slightly outboard of my gutter, and so what's happening is a little bit of water is dripping off of that back edge of the awning, and then it's coming down onto this, which is of course above the other little lip that I added, and so it is managing to still drip down into my space there. So with the awning deployed, this little gutter is having very little effect other than whatever water might be running, you know, down this surface, which looks like there's not a lot.
And this furthest awning bar, it is all the way over. I checked, it cannot go any further. I could maybe mount the awning another inch forward. I don't remember if there's any more room there for this whole thing to just slide forward. If it was forward another inch, maybe that would close that gap. So actually, no, I cannot scoot the awning any further forward. These bolts are running up into this bracket, so it is as far forward as I can go. I can't get an extra inch of proximity here to that surface. I don't really see a way to keep that in place. This is aluminum, so I can't even put like magnets or something. And the little extension of angle aluminum didn't really help sort of draw the water out like I thought it might. You can see there it's dripping maybe 3/4 of an inch further outboard, but it's also coming right out of the gutter down into here. So that is still sort of down in this area and not in here. So that's good, but obviously I'm still getting water coming in between the hatch in here. Ultimately, the best prevention is just to not camp in the rain. So fortunately, this was an inexpensive and easy project, because if it had been expensive and difficult, I would have been disappointed with how somewhat ineffective it turned out to be. Now, I do have some additional modification ideas that I am going to experiment with back here that I think may also help me with this issue. In the meantime, I may also try and figure out a way to get that awning flap to stay up over that gutter. And maybe I can also experiment with trying to create a better slope away from the back of the camper with the awning, depending on how I've got the truck situated. It may be that the way I was sitting in that campsite that one time was actually drawing more water towards the back of the awning than would normally occur. So while I didn't fully resolve my issue here, it was definitely worth giving it a try, especially because it was easy and it was inexpensive. I was happy to fiddle with it, and we're gonna keep working on this. If you have any questions about what I did, post them in the comments below. Thank you for watching.